Hey guys, welcome to day 2 of my STEM project. This is Vera, and I hope you all are having a great day. Now, we're gonna start off today's lectures by taking a look at a concept that is very important, not only for computer science, but for computers in general: storage. So, we all know that our computers hold a lot of data. We have data regarding photos, we have data regarding video files, we have applications, and we just have a lot of files on our computer. So, now, you may also have noticed that our computer organizes our files or it organizes our storage in a certain way. More specifically, our computer uses folders and files to organize our data. So, files actually store our data, whereas folders store other files and folders to basically organize our data and help us have a cleaner way to represent all the data that our computer holds. So again, as I said, files help us actually store the data. So you may have a file that stores some text data. You may have a file that stores some video data, and folders help us group all files that are similar to each other, or folders and files that are similar to each other. And this is a pretty good way to organize our data so it's like more manageable and we can understand our data better. And this is how our computers organize our data. Now, you all know what files and folders are, and I'm confident that you all know what files and folders are. However, the reason we're reviewing what files and folders are is because it's vital that we understand or have a good understanding of how our computer stores data, or in other words, we have a good understanding of files and folders before we get into using a terminal. Now, what is a terminal? Well, a terminal is a tool that many developers use in order to interact with their computer using only their keyboard. So, using a terminal, you can access files and folders using a keyboard. You can modify files and folders using only your keyboard. And terminals were actually very popular back in the day when computers didn't have mouses. But even though computers have mouses now, programmers still use a terminal to access files and folders because it's faster, and there are many tools that in programming that you have to use that you can only use on the terminal. So it's really important that we know how to use a terminal for our programming journey, and to know how to use a terminal, we need to know how storage works. So folders and files are how we store data. Now let's try to take a look at another aspect of folders and files: naming them. So you might have noticed that naming folders is pretty straightforward. You name a folder on based on what type of data it stores, or you name a folder based on what kind of data it classifies. So if I had a folder that had a bunch of files and other folders regarding to my schoolwork, I might name that folder school. And then the same, if I had a folder that contains all my code, I might name that my programs folder, and etc. So naming a folder is pretty straightforward. But where it gets tricky is naming a file. Because in many file names, you have the name of your file, and then you have some more text that's followed by a dot. So over here, although our file name is program, we have this .txt next to our program. And then here, although our file name is movie, we have a .mp4 beside our file name. And the same over here, we have code and then a .py and program.java. So what are these extra texts, and why do we have to have them beside our file names? Well, these extra pieces of text are actually called file extensions. And what file extensions do is they tell your computer what kind of data a file holds. So a .txt file extension tells your computer, hey computer, this file has text data in it. A .mp4 extension tells your computer, hey computer, this file has video data in it. And the same follows for programming languages. So if you have a file that contains code, you need to tell your computer what kind of code your file contains. And each programming language has a unique file extension that tells your computer what kind of code is in that file. So for Python, it's .py. So at the end of any file that has Python code, at the end of the file's name, you have to add a .py. So if you wrote a bunch of Python code, when you save that Python code, you have to add .py. And then the same for this Java file. You have to add .java at the end of any file name where you have Java code in it. So again, these file extensions, all they do is they help the computer identify what kind of data is in each file. Now that we have a pretty good understanding of what folders and files are, let's take a look at how our computer might utilize them to store data. So in every computer, you're going to have one massive folder that holds all the data in your computer. So all the data in your computer is inside this folder. And this folder is called the root folder. Or in other words, it's called the root directory because, just a quick term alert, programmers actually refer to folders as directories. So from now on, I'm going to refer to folders as directories so you guys get used to the terminology. But the root directory is going to hold all the data in your computer. Now, this root directory might be named different things based on your operating system. So for Mac OS, the root directory is named the Matilda symbol, whereas for Windows, the root directory is named C:. So yeah, that's what the root directory is named. And now your root directory might have some folders and files, and inside the folders in your root directory, there might be more folders and files. And these folders might have more folders, and these folders might have more folders or files. So let's say this is all the data that our computer holds. Of course, if I were to show how my computer holds all the data that my laptop has, it would not fit on this slide because there's just so many folders and so many files that each laptop has, it just wouldn't fit on this file. And now that brings up another concern. So even this small representation of data that is held in like probably a small tiny computer, even this is a bit confusing. So if I wanted to know how I would access my program.py file from my root directory, how can I, or more importantly, how can I let my computer know how to go from the root directory all the way to my program.py file? Because it can't just directly access it, it has to go through all the folders to get to that file. So how can I tell my computer how to go from the root directory to the file that I want, which in this case is program.py? Well, to do this, we use something called a path. So every file and folder in your computer has a path to it. Just like how your house might have an address, every file and folder in your computer has a path. And what this path tells your computer is, it tells your computer the directions that it has to follow from the home directory or the root directory to go from the root directory to your destination directory or file. So over here, for example, we start off at the root directory and I want to get to program.py. My path would tell my computer, okay, so first you're going to have to go to folder 2, then you're going to have to go to folder 5, then you go to folder 8, and then you go to program.py. Now, obviously, our computers aren't going to understand this visual representation, so how our path is actually going to be represented in our computer is going to be through a string. So, for example, if it's on a Windows laptop, we're going to start off at C:, but if it's Mac, we're going to start off at Matilda, and then we're going to go into /folder2, and what /folder2 tells you is we're going to go into folder 2. So that's what the slash says, go into. And then we're going to go into folder 5, then folder 8, and then program.py. And then again, if I wanted to find the path, for example, for folder 6, let's see how we can get to folder 6. So first we get into folder 1, then we get into folder 4, and then we get into folder 6. So folder 6's path would be something like C:/folder1/folder4/folder 6. So paths basically give you the directions to go from your root directory all the way to like a file or folder that you want to get to. So now that we understand paths and we understand how folders and files work in our computer, let's actually dive in to the terminal, which is actually called the command prompt on Windows devices. We're going to dive into the terminal/command prompt. And yeah, we're going to be taking a look at both of those things, and we're going to be working with both of those things. So we're going to be working with the terminal and the command prompt. Now, just a quick disclaimer. I'm going to be working with the Mac version of the terminal first. So we're going to be working in Mac OS first. But if you have a Windows device, just skip over that part and look and just watch the Windows part of this video, I guess. So guys, as you can see over here, I'm on my Mac machine, and if you guys have a Mac OS computer, then follow along, because here we're going to be taking a look at how to use the terminal on Mac OS and how to just take a look at all your files and folders in Mac OS. Now, if you guys have a Windows machine, just skip over this part, because later on in this video, we're going to be doing the same process but on a Windows computer. But if you do have a Mac, then let's get started. So before we look at a terminal where we're going to basically go through all our files and folders using our keyboard only, let's take a look at how we can go through all our files and folders using a graphical user interface, or using our mouse and keyboard. So to do that, what you can do is you can type something called Finder, and you guys are probably aware of this, but Finder will let you take a look at files and folders yeah, it'll let you take a look at files and folders graphically. So in your Finder, if you want to go to the original, if you want to go to the home directory or the home folder, all you're going to do is you're going to press Command Shift G. That's Command plus Shift plus G. And then you're going to just type in slash and enter. And as you can see, this takes you to the Macintosh HD or the root directory or the home directory. Now, as you can see in Macintosh HD, there's going to be four folders. You're going to have the application folder, which is going to have all the apps that you have. Now, as you guys can see, I went into the application folder, right? Now, let's say I want to go back into the home directory. What I can do is I can simply click on this back arrow over here to go back into Macintosh HD. And then, obviously, we have library and systems, but the folder that you're mostly going to be working in is users. And then users over here, this is actually going to be your home folder. Here, for me, it's named Joshik Varshik, but it's probably named something else for your MacBook. And then in here, you have a bunch of folders and files. Now, what we're gonna do now, real quick, is we're just basically gonna be creating a folder that's dedicated to coding. So what I'm gonna do is, and I want you guys to do this too. We're gonna go into Documents, then we're gonna right-click, and we're gonna create a coding folder. Now, I already have a coding folder over here, so I'm going to name it something like Coding 1. And you guys can name it anything, but I would recommend naming it Coding Folder. And now inside this coding folder, you're going to have all the files, all the coding files that you're going to write, and this is just going to keep it organized. And to make it even more organized, let's create a new folder, and let's call it My STEM Project. And this is where you're going to have all your My STEM Project files in. So let's double click on that. And as you can see, we have officially created a folder containing My STEM Project. So now let's take a look at the path of My STEM Project. So what would My STEM Project's path be? Well, I'm gonna open up notes real quick so we can kind of note it down. But 1 second. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So what would My STEM Project's path be? Well, obviously, since we're in a Mac, we're going to be starting at our home directory. So let's see all the folders that we had to get through to get to My STEM Project folder. So again, let's start off at the beginning. So we're going to say Command Shift G / and that's going to bring us to our root directory, the Matilda. Now then we're going to have to go into users. Then we're going to have to go into Joshik Varshik. Now here's the cool thing about a macOS computer. So in a macOS computer or in the terminal for your macOS computer, all of this is going to be represented as the Matilda symbol. So you're not going to have to write all of this. Instead, all of this can just be represented as the Matilda symbol. So writing the Matilda symbol basically writes all of that. Okay, so now this is where the actual fun starts. So you might remember that our coding folder, which our My STEM Project folder is in the Documents folder. So over here from our Matilda, we're going to go into Documents and then another /, and then in our Documents folder, our My STEM Project folder is in the Coding 1 folder. And then in our Coding 1 folder, obviously we have our My STEM Project folder. And then if we follow this path, we're going to be inside our My STEM Project folder. So yeah, that's just something cool about that's just the path for My STEM Project in our macOS machine. Now that we've taken a look at the graphical interface on how the graphical interface for interacting with our computer's memory, let's have some fun and let's take a look at the terminal for macOS. So macOS terminal would be, you're gonna have to type in terminal and then enter, and it's gonna pull out a terminal. Now, quick disclaimer. Here's how my terminal looks like, and I'm just gonna minimize the Finder for now. Here's how my terminal looks like. You can see how it looks fancy. It has a bunch of colors, and it has some icons up here, like the home icon and the Apple icon over here. Now, I actually customized this terminal using some code and using some extensions. Now, your terminal is gonna look probably something like this. Just a white or black window with some text on it. And basically both terminals do the same thing and they use the same commands. The only difference is the way they look. So basically over here, you can see this Matilda symbol over here for me, that Matilda symbol is up here. And what this over here and over here for your terminal, what this shows us is it shows us the current path that we're in. So it shows us the directory we're in and the path of that directory. So if we're in the home directory, then it's just going to show us Matilda because we're in the home directory. But just remember, all the commands that I'll be using is going to be the same. The only difference is that instead of my path being over here, it's going to be up here. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at how we would go to the MyStem project folder from our Matilda. So obviously from our Matilda or from our root directory, we're going to have to go into the documents folder first, and then we're going to have to go into the coding folder, and then we're going to have to go into the MyStem project folder. So what we're going to do first is, let's take a look at all the folders that are currently in our Matilda folder. So to take a look at all the folders that are in our Matilda folder, what we're going to do is we're going to type in ls. And what ls is going to do is it's going to give us a list of all the folders in our Matilda folder. Now, obviously, my thing is formatted with a bunch of colors, but yours is not going to be formatted if you have the original terminal. Because, again, I have like a UI wrapper around my terminal, which makes it look a bit cool. It just makes it look a bit more organized. But yours is probably just going to list all these folders and files. So as you can see, we have the applications folder, we have the desktop folder, we have the documents folder, we have the downloads folder, and all these folders in our Matilda folder, which is our home directory. So now we've confirmed that we have the documents folder in our Matilda folder. So the next thing we might want to do is we just might want to go into our documents folder. So let's say I want to go into my documents folder. How would I go into my documents folder? Well, what I would do is I would type in cd space documents, so the name of the folder. And again, you guys will see this autocomplete thing over here. You guys are not going to see that. That's, again, another extension that my terminal has. But yeah, I'm not going to use the autocomplete feature, so don't worry. But cd documents, and if you press enter, what you'll see over here is you can see over here we have Matilda/documents. So this tells us that we have successfully entered the documents folder. And the next thing we're going to have to do is enter the coding folder. Again, we can type in ls to see all the folders and files that are in the documents folder. And as you can see, we have coding 1 over here. So we're going to say cd coding 1. Oh, wait, oops. You can see how over here I accidentally entered into the coding folder, when in reality, my MyStem project folder is in the coding 1 folder. Now remember, you might have named your folder something else, so that's up to you, but I put my MyStem project folder in the coding 1 folder. And now I'm in the wrong coding folder. And if you do an ls real quick, you'll see that I don't have any other coding folder. I don't have any other coding 1 folder in my coding folder. So what can I do? Well, basically, we all know that the coding 1 folder is in our documents folder. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go out of our coding 1 folder and we're going to have to go back to the documents folder. So how can we do this? Well, we can do this by using the command cd space ... and enter. And now you'll see over here, we've gone into the documents folder. So we basically got out of the coding folder and now we're in the documents folder. All right, cool. So now we can correctly go into coding 1. And then again, if we do an ls, you can see the only folder in our coding folder is MyStem project. So we can do cd MyStem project. And now we're in our MyStem project folder, right? That's really cool. And also another quick thing, you can see how our terminal is really messy, has all these stuff. So if I wanted to clear all these stuff, all I'd have to type is clear, and you can see our terminal is clean. So these are the four fundamental commands in the terminal. Remember, you have the cd command, so cd folder name. The cd folder name command will let you go into a folder. The ls command will list all the files and folders in your current folder. The cd ... command will go out of your current folder. And finally, the clear command will clear the terminal screen. And let me actually make that bigger. Can I make that bigger? I don't think I can make that bigger, but those are the four main commands that we've learned, and those are the four commands that you're going to need to know for the terminal. Now, actually, from the terminal, we can run our Python code to see what our Python output would be, or we can also run our Java code to see what our Java output is going to be. So yeah, we're gonna look at how to run our Python and Java code from the terminal later on in our videos, in our upcoming lectures. In actually today's lecture, so if you're in Python, you're gonna see it in the Python lecture. If you're in Java, you're gonna see it in the Java lecture. But that is basically how the command prompt works, or that's how the terminal works. So I hope you guys understood how the terminal works, and yeah, that's all for this lecture. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Hey guys, so regarding the Windows version of how to use the command prompt on Windows, I actually don't have a Windows machine on me right now, so I can't make a tutorial, but after doing some research, I found this really good resource that goes into all the basics of, I guess, command prompt in Windows. So what I want you guys to do is just look through this tutorial. You probably don't have to look through the entire thing. I would just say go down until point 6, and that should be fine. I posted this resource in our agenda, so yeah, please do check this resource out. But yeah, I can't actually make a video because I don't have access to a machine. But if you guys have any doubts about the Windows machine and how to operate on Windows machine, just post it in Google Classroom or send me an email, because I do have experience working with Windows machines. I just don't have one on me right now. But yeah, that's what we're going to do for the Windows version of this. And after you're done with that, what I want you guys to do is just create a dedicated folder in your computer anywhere you want, where you're going to store all your MyStem project files. And yeah, that's all for this tutorial. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.